Hello, Adrian Salbucci once again. This is the second video on Second Republic. It's the second pillar and refers to recovering a sovereign currency. Second Republic must define the role and priority of finance, banking, and money. So let's start with simple definitions. Finance. Finance is the world of money, of stocks, of credit and debt, of banks, of investments. Finance must serve the real economy, and the real economy is the economy of work, production, manufacturing, services, creativity, toil, working from 9 to 6, really making personal effort. But you see, today it's the other way around. Finance has grown 30, 40, 100 times larger than the real economy. It has become like a cancerous tumor that has metastasized, and it's threatening to kill the economic body the world over. And it's all being done in front of our noses by companies that are just too big to fail. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, the Federal Reserve Bank, the private bank, Central Bank of the United States, AIG, the derivatives market, George Soros, fraudulent sovereign debts, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, they're all headline names. Finance has usurped the upper hand, and it's not supposed to have, and it must be put back in its place, and we the people have to do that. Finance can grow exponentially because it's very easy to grow exponentially with a spreadsheet. All you have to do is double click on the mouse and it will just compound interest time over again. The economy can only grow arithmetically because if you want to have more cars, more loaves of bread, more service, you have to put work and toil and effort into it. You cannot get more cars by magic by just double clicking on a spreadsheet. What do? How do they work this whole thing? Well, I explained this in my video from April 2009 called The Global Financial Collapse. I described how the whole economic system, the whole financial system of the Western world and of the entire planet is basically a Ponzi scheme. It's a four-sided Ponzi scheme. And they haven't hidden anything from you because it's on your $1 bill, the pyramid. And that pyramid has four sides, which I will just very briefly remind. First, they control a country's public money through its central bank. They always make it insufficient for economic needs. Then they have the private banking system, which will give you the money that you need, but it will charge you an interest, and it will do it using fractional money, fractional banking system, which is basically creating money out of nothing. Third, they will make you think that everything has to be done with debt, which is a death trap. And fourth, when the system finally collapses, they will socialize all losses the way they privatized all profits before that. Public money is money issued by the government and should reflect the true needs of the real economy. This can be calculated for each country based on key factors: population, territory, productivity, birth rate, strategic and social needs, the type of economies each region has, development project, health needs, educational needs. The keynote is that public money, the money issued by your central bank, does not generate interest. The national currency, the dollars, the pesos, the euros, belongs to we the people. It's public money. It belongs to us. It does not belong to the bankers. Public money only becomes inflationary when it is issued beyond the real needs of the economy, of the real economy, which reflects either criminal fraud or total negligence. For example, the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States that is issuing dollar bills and treasuries beyond all logic. Private money, however, is issued by the banking system based on fractional lending and substitute the insufficient public money supply. A key point to keep in mind: this type of banking system money is interest-bearing, and that leads to usury, and that is the main source of inflation. We'll talk about that later on. Also, there is a missing link in economic theory and practice, which has been pointed out by English economist Stephen Wheeler. We all know that we have macroeconomy, the big numbers running countries and the global system, and then microeconomics, the specifics of a company or of an organization and so forth. Between the macro and the micro, we need to have an in-between point, an intermediate vantage point, which Stephen Wheeler calls mini-economics. Mini-economics assesses smaller units of analysis, for example, a specific industry, a specific region, a specific local or regional economic factor, a city, a seasonal economic process, it becomes crucial then to properly match, and it allows you to understand the intrinsic velocity of circulation of each industry, of each region, of each type of activity. For example, real estate money are large sums which flow very slowly. How often do you buy or sell a house? Every 5 years, 10 years, whatever. Retail money, Walmart for example, is very fast, small amounts, but very fast, very fast, very fast, very fast. What is the subprime debacle? Basically that we had excessive consumer retail buying, that's small amounts of fast moving money, backed by subprime real estate money, which is very slow moving. On top of that, it was used as collateral and it was non-performing. So a mismatch of this sort generated a catastrophic economic and financial situation. It becomes glaringly obvious when you use mini economics, the intermediate between macro and micro, to understand these points. And one last thing, there is no market in the classical sense of supply and demand, prices, credit, investment, being fixed by what Adam Smith called in 1776 the invisible hand. Our media, day after day, will swamp us with numbers and numbers and more numbers about what the invisible hand is doing of in the global financial economy. Prices, wages, rates of exchange, stocks, commodities, all the result of the invisible hand. But think, all hands, whether invisible or otherwise, are always articulated by an arm. And in our case, it's a very muscular arm at that. And all arms are controlled by a brain. Powerful individuals, corporations, and governments that can twist any arm they wish. So rather than gawking at the Kabbalah of market numbers on TV and on radio and in the Wall Street Journal, etc., etc., isn't it wiser to look at how the arm operates, and much more important to try and understand what the brain is planning to do from its high post in the New York City and London boardrooms, from the Federal Reserve Board, from the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group, and the Trilateral Commission? So let's define money. Above all, money should be nothing more and nothing less than a certificate or voucher for work in its widest definition. Physical work, intellectual work, artistic, creative, industrial, service works, whatever. But work in every imaginable facet. If we put money to be based on work as a foundation, we've solved half the economic problems. Because this definition has a high moral value. Because what it basically says is that the only way that an individual or an organization can get money, can obtain money, is by delivering socially productive work to society as a counterpart. This puts a limitation to usury. This puts a limitation to parasitic antisocial behavior, to fraud, not to mention to the counterfeiting of money as the private banks do nowadays with fractional lending. That is why it is critical for money and currency to be public. Its volume and channeling should be controlled by the sovereign state, geared always on promoting the common good against the greed of the individual interest. Money is a key instrument in power. The state should regulate it, and it should not be part of any economic process that is left exclusively to private initiative, as America found out in 2008. The state must only ensure that all private economic activity is subordinated to the public good. The state should not intervene in the actual economic process itself. That's communism. So, the state should only look after those actions and those activities which are just not possible from the by private enterprise, because they are just not lucrative, and you can't expect somebody from the private sphere to do something which is not lucrative. Free health, free education, national defense, policing, right? This also requires that the monetary agency, the central bank in Argentina, the Federal Reserve in the United States, must report to the government. It must be subordinated to the government, not to the private bankers. Statistics, credibility, stability, regional development, public health and education, and so forth, all of these are the key factors that will determine what the state should do. Because, and let's go to some other basics. There are specific functions of money and currency. Money has 4 specific functions. First, it is a